Welcome to Dialogues at Fulcrum, where we have conversations with experts and analysts on the latest geopolitical, economic, and cultural developments in Southeast Asia.
Good afternoon to all Fulcrum listeners. I'm Dr. William Choong, the managing editor of Fulcrum, which is a website published by the ISIS Yusof Ishak Institute here in Singapore. And I'm very happy here to have Professor Kei Koga here, who's an expert on Japanese grand strategy. Kei is from Kei is a professor and head of division at the Public Policy and Global Affairs Program, School of Social Sciences, Nanyang Technological University. Kei is also a non-resident fellow at the US-based National Bureau of Asia Research and a member of the research committee at the Research Institute for Peace and Security in Japan. As people who follow Kei's work, you will know that his research focuses on international security, international and regional institutions, in particular ASEAN, as well as East Asian security. So, very warm welcome to you, Professor Koga. Or can I call you Kei?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, just call me Kei.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So just to give a bit of preamble for people who are interested in Japan, we've seen many kind of historic developments in Japan in the past year or so. We've seen the Liberal Democratic Party winning a landslide in snap elections in February. We've seen that kind of the very important alliance between Japan and the US remaining largely solid, a bit with some kind of hiccups depending on what US President Donald Trump is saying about the alliance. We are seeing kind of tensions between China and Japan at the moment, sparked off by the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi's comments about a Taiwan contingency. But amid kind of all these kind of uncertainty and controversies is one steady light, which I believe Professor Koga will be able to shed light on, which is Japan continues to score very highly in Southeast Asia, if not the wider East Asian region, for being a trusted and reliable power to many people in Southeast Asia as well as the wider region. So I'm going to jump straight into the podcast questions. Now I'm going to interrogate Kei now with a list of questions, and I hope Kei is good with that. I just want to add that for the benefit of our listeners, Professor Koga is also an avid marathon runner. This is coming from a runner who is very pathetic when it comes to his running discipline. But given the Professor Koga's marathon running, I think we will get some decent mileage from Kei today. Pardon the pun. The pun was intended. So thanks again, Kei, for having us today.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to this interesting podcast, and I'm really lucky to have this and promote our book, recent book, on the Japan's grand strategy, the co-authored with the Professor Katada.
Yeah, well, once again, we discussed this post pre-recording. So congratulations, Kei, on the book co-authored with Professor Katada, and it's 4 years of work, you were telling me before the recording. So well done then. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump straight to it. Now, Kei, for a lot of people who read Fulcrum and read stuff that my institute publishes, they will be quite familiar with the Japan of today, modern Japan. But maybe for the benefit of some of our readers and listeners out there, can you kind of encapsulate for us what is Japan's grand strategy towards East Asia or the Indo-Pacific, if you prefer, and in particular towards ASEAN today?
Okay, so I think the Japan's grand strategy for the Indo-Pacific has been developing like since the end of the Cold War, and it actually came to be emerge because of the many things that like Japan has been doing like since the end of the Cold War, and it accumulated in the one kind of the concept in the Pacific. So it's usually considered to be the free and open in the Pacific. The FOIP is a kind of part of or the most of the kind of Japan's in the Pacific strategy. But then as our book actually talks a little bit about this. I think there are two objectives in Japan's grand strategy for the Indo-Pacific. And then one is Japan try to kind of maintain the regional strategic balance in the East Asia and in the Pacific because there are so many uncertainties, as you mentioned right now, like in the international politics, and then surrounding around Japan's neighborhood, Japan perceived certain uncertainties and threats coming from China's economic and military rise. North Korea's developing nuclear and the missiles, and also Russia's growing strategic hostility. So in that sense, Japan needs to actually actively work on to counter or like manage these kind of the threats by creating or like building up its own defense capabilities, as well as strengthening alliance with the United States and so on and so forth. So this is a kind of big part of Japan's Indo-Pacific strategy, maintaining the regional balance in the region. And then second one is also Japan aims to kind of try to shape international order or regional order in the Indo-Pacific in a ways of favorable to its own interest. So, for example, if you actually listen to the contents or the principle of free and open in the Pacific, they usually emphasize the importance of maintaining or enhancing rules-based order or liberal international order in the region. That means they want to push the importance of emphasize the importance of the rule of law, and then also norms, international norms, and then to some extent democratic values, and so on and so forth. So I think like to that end, Japan is trying to create build the coalitions with the like-minded countries or actors in the region, such as basically like democratic countries, South Korea, Australia, the Philippines, and then the other democratic countries, and also those whose their interests or like strategic interests overlaps, like the Vietnam or like the Singapore, like they want to actually cooperate with that, like in terms of pushing forward the rules-based order. So I think in this sense, by doing so, the Japan is trying to benefit from kind of constructing the rules-based order in the Pacific. I think like for ASEAN, like ASEAN falls in the latter part, like they are shaping the regional order because the ASEAN consists of the 11 countries right now. And if you get the support from the ASEAN, then like that means you get like the number of the regional states supporting the particular principles or like rules and norms in the region, and then that could actually create the big legitimacy in the particular rules. And so I think the Japan consider the ASEAN as arguably the most important institution in the Pacific, and then that's why like Japan has been engaging in the ASEAN a lot through its grand strategy for the Indo-Pacific.
Thanks so much for that, Kei. I just have a follow-up question, and I think some of our listeners and somewhat this comes out of the blue, but yeah, what you said about international law, rule of law, rules-based order, became part of the strategic lexicon, I think about 10 years ago and I especially remember Shinzo Abe speaking at a Shangri-La Dialogue here in Singapore in 2013, saying that basically rule of law is supreme, is paramount for holding the regional order together. And I don't think there is a debate about the importance of rules-based order, especially what we are seeing in Iran right now. But I also want to quote what our former Defense Minister of Singapore, Ng Eng Hen, said about the United States being a landlord seeking rent, in that the very progenitor and author of the rules-based order post 1945 is kind of undermining the very foundations of the rules-based order that we are seeing today. So, and this affects Japan, this affects ASEAN directly with what we are seeing the US doing in Iran, which many see to be contravening the basic tenets of the UN Charter, seeing what Trump is saying about alliances, which kind of forms the broader foundation of a rules-based order. And of course, the Trump tariffs, which are kind of going against the basic tenets of the World Trade Organization and, most favored nation status that has been taken for granted in the multilateral trading system. So what do you have to say about that? I mean, it would be a big challenge for rules-based order loving countries like Japan and the ASEAN countries, right?
Right. So yeah, you are completely right. I think today we are facing different kind of situation, right? In terms of their international politics, in terms of their Japan-U.S. relations, in terms of their U.S. foreign policy orientation. I think in the past, we kind of safely assumed that the United States is has been championing the rules-based order, and then also the liberal international order, no matter what. Like whoever becomes the president, we could actually see the United States advocating for the human rights or democratic kind of rule of governance and multilateral institutions and so on and so forth. But when the Trump President Trump came into power in 2017, this became somewhat different. But then at the same time, there's still like the United States was actually kind of talking more about the rules-based order in the Pacific, etc. This time, the Trump 2.0 became a little bit different, and because President Trump and the administration, his administration considers a rules-based order or like a liberal international order is the part of the rhetoric that the allies are going to use, and in order to free ride the United States or exploit the U.S. resources for their own benefits and so on and so forth. So I think even if you mention the rules-based order, you don't get the support from the United States. Maybe like what you get is you get like I mean, you have to kind of pay for the United States to push for like this rules-based order and so on and so forth. But I think I think like in general though, again, like the Japan hasn't actually changed its position, and it's going to be pretty difficult for Japan to gain their full support from the United States in pushing the rules-based international order. So what I think the Japan is trying to do is maybe like the Japan is not going to rely on the United States for that to that end. But at the same time, there are many other countries still like believes in as you said, like the Shinzo Abe talking about the rules-based order, and then most of the people actually agree. Not many people actually disagree with that. So I think like they are trying to get the support from the other countries, from the Southeast Asia and also the European countries to push forward. So maybe like in the past, like as I said, the Japanese grand strategy consisting of the two parts, like a regional balance of power, like maintaining a regional balance of power and shaping the international order. I think for the both kind of objective, the U.S. had been the strong kind of supporter. But like if we are losing to somewhat like the United States in the shaping the international order, the Japan is actually looking for the other kind of partners. And then particularly in the Pacific region, I think like ASEAN is going to be the big partners for the Japan to push for this, shaping the regional order and so on and so forth. So I think like it's really difficult, But then the U.S. foreign policy reorientation does not necessarily lead Japan to change its kind of course of the ground strategy. It's just kind of going on, but like the changing the partners.
Yeah, excellent points, there, Kei. I think the, I guess I think there was a writer, if I'm not wrong, it was Amitav Achaya, who talks about kind of the world minus one system. Whereby the rest of the world moves in a separate direction from the United States, and I think one of the kind of classic examples of that is kind of the EU moving towards kind of RCEP or CPTPP in trying to form a mega trade deal and connecting this mega trade deal with economies on the across the Pacific, minus the United States, and this will like compromise like 40 to 50% of global GDP. And I think that's if the United States refuses to join, then I guess that's the way that we have to proceed, whether the United States wants it or not. And I think another point is that for listeners out there who are wishing that in a post-Trump administration, you're going to see the U.S. returning to support the rules-based order. My money is that that's not going to happen. I do not know whether you have the same view. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, like, I can't actually say like what's gonna happen after the Trump administration. It's really unpredictable. But then, I mean, I understand like what you said about post-Trump doesn't actually change much. It could be possible. And also, like, it also equally possible that maybe like the United States is coming back to the original position to support rules-based international order. But then the things would change definitely because now that like U.S. is not has not been consistent in supporting a rules-based order. Maybe like even if we see the next administration supporting a rules-based order, next administration may actually change the course again. And then we can completely rely on the U.S. For the foreign policy all the time. So if it's not like the United States, it is more like the international rules and norms and order that we probably have to kind of stick to. And that actually the uncertainty creates the more kind of the direction for Japan and other countries to be the autonomous or to some extent independent in supporting the international order. So I think like that's the how it goes. I mean, I guess again, like I'm not really sure what's gonna happen in the future about the U.S. foreign policy. But like either way, U.S. credibility in supporting the international order is actually considered to be less and less, like reduced. So that we are now like trying to see another way to create or like strengthen or like shaping the rules-based order by themselves, and then that's what I think like their foreign policy is going to be, I guess.
Thanks for that, Kay. I think one point that is constant amid the change, the flux that we are seeing is that Japan continues to rate very highly in the region. I mean, just in our recently released IC State of Southeast Asia survey, Japan continues to rank very highly among regional thought leaders. One thing I want to ask you actually, Kay, is I think Prime Minister Takaichi has had two meetings with Trump. I think it was late last year and recently, quite more recently. And she seems to have taken the measure of Trump quite well. She seems to be able to handle Trump quite well. And to her credit, despite the ructions that we see in some aspects of U.S.-Japanese relations, the alliance is kind of still holding strong. What is your kind of forecast in terms of the alliance going forward? We do know that Trump has made some comments about South Korea and Japan not pulling their weight when it comes to contributing resources, military resources to the Gulf. in light of what's happening in Iran. So how do you see the alliance holding up going forward?
Okay. I think the logic of alliance is still there. So that means structurally speaking, and also like strategically speaking, Japan and the United States could benefit by strengthening or upholding the alliances in the Indo-Pacific. This is because right now, like the today's kind of world is so uncertain. Like there are many kind of conflicts all over, and the tensions in the Pacific, particularly China with China between China, maybe like in the United States in the future, China, Japan for sure, and then also the Chinese kind of posture toward the Taiwan as well. So in that sense, holding strong alliance could create the certain deterrence effect, and then that could actually create more kind of stability in the region. So I guess this logic is pretty much generally shared between the Japanese and then American security communities. So that like nobody is going to say, oh, we're gonna have to like abrogate the U.S. Japan alliance, and then so on and so forth. I think that's still there. I think what changed right now is that the Trump administration becomes more kind of transactional in politically, and then they may actually push more pressure on Japan to do the burden sharing, and also demand more to support the U.S. actions in the world, including the Middle East. So, as you said, so first, Takaichi summit with the meeting with the Trump was okay. I mean, it was completely fine. They reassured the existence of the alliance, and then they actually promised to enhance the alliance in the Indo-Pacific. They ensured the U.S. alliance function stay the same, such as the U.S. commitment to the Japan's defense, etc. But then the second one, like the one like we actually saw recently in March, the reportedly the Trump administration, or like President Trump actually asked Takaichi to dispatch self-defense force or like share a certain kind of the defense asset in support for U.S. actions in the Straits of Hormuz. So that actually rejected. I mean, like Takaichi kind of avoided to the Japan's commitment, and what she said was that because we are trying to figure out what we can do, but then because of the Article 9 and then also constitutional constraints, so that like we might not be able to actually swiftly like respond to the U.S. demands or like the situation. That's a kind of like good way to avoid like the direct commitment, and then they could actually engage the debates in the inside the Japan too. So I think so far what the Takaichi administration, it's kind of like the strange, right? Because Takaichi administration is supposed to be or like they consider to be the really conservative government, so that like if they are willing to engage more kind of like security wise outside the Japan, they would actually may say yes. But then in that sense, I think like Takaichi administration is considering about its own national interest, to what extent it could commit, and then by committing to the particular security in the different region, what the Japan can get. Like those are kind of something Takaichi was thinking about. And so I think the management, alliance management that the Takaichi administration is doing is at least like they try to maintain the status quo. So even if you can't actually do more for enhancing the U.S.-Japan alliance, at least like they have to actually maintain the U.S.-Japan alliance as it is, and then that's what the Takaichi has been doing. And then therefore, the statement made by the Trump administration or President Trump about the alliance, it can be changed over time, right? So maybe today they would say, "Oh, we're gonna actually put more pressure on the Japan," or like the Japan needs to pay more, or like Japan needs to dispatch their troops outside, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the next day, maybe like he would change the statement, and then he suddenly say U.S. Japan alliance has been the strongest ever, yeah. So I think like in that sense, they are not going to actually react like swiftly to what respond to what President Trump said. I think like it's just kind of try to see what is the kind of like most important points that the Trump administration wish to put forward over the alliance management. And then once they figure it out, they're gonna act. So I think like that's the kind of the reactions that Takaichi is trying to get.
Yeah. Again, I think Prime Minister Takaichi played it really well in that she kept the atmospherics correct, and she had this personal camaraderie with Trump, and as somebody who kind of tries to follow Japan and Japan's strategy towards the region, I think the way that she actually laid out Article 9 and kind of the constitutional restraints or constraints that Japan faces when it comes to dispatching the JMSDF to the Gulf, I think is the kind of quintessential Japanese way of saying no, but very politely. I mean, Kei, you kind of educated me on how Japanese people think and act in public. So I think this was the quintessential Japanese way of saying no, but in a polite fashion. But again, on a more deeper genesis of this is that it's just that simply Japan is just adhering to the rules that Japan has set for itself. I mean, in terms of the kind of constitutional and legal restraints that Japan faces in dispatching kind of naval ships into the Gulf. It's not a situation which threatens the life, liberty, and liberty of the Japanese people. I mean, I'll see it that way, and that's the very reason why Japan cannot dispatch naval vessels to the Gulf. And I think the fact that Trump didn't kick up a huge fuss over the prime minister's statement is just demonstrates the skill in which Prime Minister Takaichi displayed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's the way to actually manage the uncertainties and unpredictability of the demand coming from the Trump administration. Uh, because even if you respond to the demand very quickly, you don't know what kind of like benefit you can get, and I don't know what kind of situation Japan is going to face if you don't actually have the clear justification to send their SDF self-defense force kind of their assets to the Gulf, then probably you would definitely get the backlash from the public and also from the other opposition parties, and then most of the people I think in Japan would not see the war on Iran, like U.S. action on Iran, is really legitimate. So in that sense, there are more kind of risks involved in responding to the demand of the United States. So I guess that's as you said, Article 9 is the kind of the good I don't want to say this, but they are probably like the good tool to say kind of like the implicit no to the demand. I mean, from the other countries, not only like the United States, but like others too. Even though like I mean, it could sometimes get like backlash, and that's what like it happened like in the during the Gulf War, right? The first Gulf War in the 1990 to 1991, Japan said like we have the constitution, so we can only contribute financially, and they did it. But then the international community criticized it's a checkbook diplomacy, and then like
Exactly.
you have to do something
I
more.
remember that one. Yeah.
So I think
So-
like still the Japan is relaxing the certain constraints on their its defense capabilities, but I think the effect of the Article 9 still exists, and you could actually somewhat like skillfully use it in order to manage the domestic and kind of politics, and then also avoid being the excessive commitment to the international security for now.
Mm, mm, mm. Thanks for that, Kay. That was really interesting. Now, can I just ask, given the fact that President Trump has been very engrossed and focused on a lot of huge topics, big topics, like Greenland, on Ukraine, on NATO, and then it was Gaza, and now Iran, and all these big geopolitical topics and outside of the Indo-Pacific. How do you see Japan's kind of support for what we call the Quad, the Quadrilateral grouping of countries? How do you see it panning out? Because I don't see a lot of official U.S. pronouncements on the Quad now. I mean, the Quad had some currency maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but since I think it probably reached a kind of apex at the end of the Biden administration, and thereafter, when it became Trump 2.0, the Quad seems to have kind of petered out, and there were some differences between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi on India, and how do you see the Quad panning out? Given that the Quad is a major kind of component of Japanese grand strategy.
Okay. I think I unfortunately I agree. I agree with you. The traction for the Quad is actually lost to some extent, and because of I think like there's not like really huge vision coming from the United States on the Quad under the Trump administration. I think they were also like skeptical about many kinds of the multilateral frameworks, even if it is informal. I mean, Quad is informal, but they actually consider it could be utilized to for the other countries to exploit the U.S. resources and so on and so forth. So in that sense, yes, I guess it lost attraction. But I think for Japan, it's probably still existing as the one of the most important strategic tools. And then those kind of institutions often like rise and fall. So if you actually look at the development of the Quad in 2007 and 2008, there were some like political attractions put forward by Prime Minister Abe and also the president, to some extent, Bush, to institutionalize the Quad. And it actually had the dialogue, but then after that, it actually lost the momentum, and then the Quad actually went into like disappeared. But it came back like into 2017, and like informally they started to have some kind of informal dialogues under the first Trump administration, and then 2021 after that, under the Biden administration, they institutionalized working groups and also the regular meeting among the ministries and then also the leaders of the four countries, and it got like to some extent like traction. So I think some of the functional cooperation exists like under the Quad. It's not like going to be the really huge strategic momentum for four countries to get together to do something in the Pacific, but functionally they are actually talking to each other so that like we could actually share the information. We try to find the areas of cooperation which can further strengthen our strategic ties in the future as well. So even though it's actually quiet, I think there are still the usefulness among in the Quad, the functional cooperation. So they're gonna actually utilize that. But then once again, like if you want to emphasize the importance of the rules-based order or liberal international order under the
Absolutely.
Quad,
Yeah.
maybe the United States, it's not going to actually support it. So I guess there's a certain kind of the change in the narratives, but then the cooperation itself actually exists. And I think like Japan is valuing those kind of cooperation. And maybe again, in the future, when the United States reorient again its foreign policy to come back to to support the international order, then still the Quad can be useful too. So I think that's the kind of how Japan see it. It's not like the right time to put the lots of things on the Quad, but then later on maybe it could be useful.
Mm, I totally agree. I think just one cheeky observation is I do wonder whether President Trump knows what the Quad is about. I mean, I'm sure he's been briefed by all his officials and all, but with his attention span and he's really focused and fixated on other geopolitical challenges, whether the Quad actually lands on his desk on a Monday morning. So thanks for that, Kay. I agree with you on kind of functional cooperation. Let's move the discussion to China. I think I've had the privilege of writing two commentaries in Fulcrum with UK on kind of Takaichi and kind of the kind of dispute with China and kind of Japan's Southwest Islands and how they can be used in the future to deter kind of Chinese intervention or even an invasion on Taiwan. We apart from the U.S., I mean the two major powers that matter in the Indo-Pacific is of course China and Japan. But as we can observe and we can see, the relationship has seen more downs than ups in the past year. So what do you think are some of the systemic kind of factors behind this, Kay?
Okay. So Japan-China relations are pretty complicated, historically, and then we are now seeing a rising tension between Japan and China. I think if we observe the current situation, Japan is actually staying kind of the it has the firm points with regard to strategic situation in Northeast Asia, but at the same time, it is open to dialogue to China. So if there's a chance, Japan is willing to actually talk to China at many levels. So that's I think Japan's posture. On the other hand, I think China has probably different perspective. I guess China considers the Takaichi administration may engage more kind of proactively against China, like the containment of China, and then they actually try to come up with many reasons, including the historical legacy, and also the Takaichi's kind of past statement, Takaichi's statement over the Taiwan, etc. So I think there's a certain kind of gap between the Japan and the China, and that actually creates the attention. And also on the top of that, I think that strategically speaking, China is kind of always trying to drive a wedge between Japan and the United States
Oh yes,
in order
yeah.
to in order to weaken their alliance, not like the collapsing alliance, because the collapsing alliance would also affect China's kind of strategic perspective or strategic situation. Because if you actually break the ties between Japan and the United States, Japan might actually going more like military stronger prospect their path, and then maybe possibly there's a kind of possibility of Japan's kind of nuclearization. It's just kind of theoretical speaking, but it actually could happen. If Japan loses the alliance with the United States. So the what the China is trying to do is the trying to kind of weaken the Japan-U.S. alliance, but at the same time not like the as much as it actually collapses. So striking balance this is really really important for them. And then today, I think the China sees the Trump administration more kind of tilting toward the China because the Trump administration, or like President Trump is trying to, or like going to meet with the President Xi in May. If the things go smoothly, probably, yeah, it depends on the situation in Iran and so on and so forth. But the that's the timing. Maybe the China and the United States could talk more about the regional situation. But until then, maybe President Trump doesn't want to talk much about the Taiwan issue. And because of that, the Takaichi tried. I mean, the Takaichi could not actually get the political or diplomatic support from the United States over her statement of the Taiwan Strait. So I guess China sees this as kind of opportunity to the drive a wedge, and then because the United States remains quiet about Japan's Takaichi's statement over Taiwan, China is trying to come up with every narrative to criticize Japan's past or like military development. So they criticize their defense build up, they criticize their counter strike capabilities, and then they consider or like relates this kind of like development to Japan's militarist past. And I think like that's the kind of like the way to delegitimize Japan's kind of posture toward its the defense capabilities.
I yeah, I totally agree with you, Kei, because I was in Beijing a couple of weeks ago, and I met some of our counterparts at various Chinese research institutes and all. I think I'm sensing that they have kind of guarded optimism when it comes to what you're saying, trying to drive a wedge between Japan and the United States. And I think one of the clearest examples of that was I think it was a Financial Times report that said that Japanese officials are trying to elicit expressions of U.S. support in Japan's kind of dispute with China over the Taiwan issue. And the only kind of offer of support that they got was from the U.S. ambassador to Japan. But apart from that, Trump didn't really say much. And I think the Financial Times report was basically saying that Trump was looking at a big kind of a trade deal with Beijing. And, because of that, he doesn't want kind of like negativity about the US-Japan alliance to cloud whatever kind of economic or trade deal that he plans to kind of sew up with President Xi. So I think if that is the way things are going to go, China does have some space to play in, like what you said about setting a wedge between the US and Japan. But one topic that I want to talk about actually, and one topic that my Chinese interlocutors talked about was, of course, what I think is a really deep-seated issue in Sino-Japanese relations, which is what they perceive to be the resurgence of Japanese militarism. And I think I had long discussions with them saying that, we understand and appreciate the Chinese view in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia appreciates the Chinese view on Japanese militarism, but, Southeast Asians think differently because of we value the role that Japan has played in the economic development of Southeast Asia starting from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. So how do you see this? How should we frame this case? Is there any kind of prospect of an improvement when it comes to such a deep-seated issue? The whole historical issue that mars relations between China and Japan.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty difficult issue, but I would actually say like first of all, we need to actually have the more kind of the fair analytical fair analysis on this kind of issue, right? And I would actually say it is not like really correct to describe this as kind of simply as their Japan is returning to their the pre-war kind of style militarism, because their Japan has many political constraints, and it still has the constitutional constraints. They debate it, like they try to kind of relax those kind of constraints, but there are many kind of veto players, including the public opinions, to go extreme to their militarism. And then there are certain kind of their consideration. Like we are always kind of discussing to what extent we should actually build our own defense capabilities in order to manage the current international strategic environment. And if you look around, like basically in the 1930s, it was only Japan in Asia which could actually have the more capabilities, defense capabilities, economic capabilities, and then like go around like the Asian countries. But today there are so many like stronger the countries. I mean China has the much stronger defense capabilities and then defense budget, so that like, it could actually project the power to the beyond its own border with the nuclear weapons. And also North Korea has its own their missile and nuclear capabilities. South Korea has strong like their defense capabilities, and also like ASEAN countries has their diplomatic influence, and also their some of them, I mean, including Singapore, has their advanced their military capabilities too. So it's not going to be pretty easy, and it's actually not like really their Japan's interest to their going back to the pre-war style, the militarism, and then nobody is actually thinking about this is a great thing. Like Japan has been thinking about its own defense. It's not like extending its defense border beyond
Exactly.
Japan's
Mm,
the border.
mm,
So that's the kind of like analytical fairness. Like we need to emphasize toward their Chinese counterpart. But like, at the same time, I think also like we shouldn't actually dismiss the Chinese kind of sentiment of the outright. Uh, Maybe whether or not like the China is using like this kind of narrative strategically or like purely like emotionally, I think the without actually taking into this account, there's not gonna be the stable the China relations. And I think the if we want to actually talk to each other and then maintain the stability in our relationship, we always have to consider the what kind of the factors we need to actually take into account, and what kind of the transparency we need to always facilitate in terms of the increasing the defense capabilities and so on and so forth, which is pretty difficult in the current strategic environment. But like, I think this conversation and communication would be like really important, and then really hope like the channels of communication should be always open in discussing like these kind of the issues, and also like the concerns from not only China but like from the Japan, and then can come to some understanding or common ground, so that like we could actually maintain at least a certain the stability
mm,
in our relationship.
mm. Thanks for that, Kay. I think you hit it on the nail quite accurately in terms of China could be doing both for strategic reasons as well as kind of emotional reasons. I think the truth is probably a bit of both. And I think in my kind of conversations with my Chinese interlocutors is that if you want to have a really fair and objective view of Japanese militarism and kind of Japanese take on historical issues, look at ASEAN. I mean, look at how we appreciate what Japan is doing. Like what you're saying, Japan is not seeking to do any kind of military dominance or military conquest that is done in the 1930s. And I think my Chinese interlocutors grudgingly accept that point. But I think these debates will go on, forever. But I think, like you say, communication is key. Between people from like different points of view. But that said, Kay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this podcast, going from Japanese grand strategy to the alliance to the Quad to China, Japan, and kind of historical issues. And I thoroughly enjoyed this podcast, and really glad that you took the time to on a Friday afternoon to record this podcast with us, Kei.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I enjoyed the conversation too. Thank you, William.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, congratulations on your book, and we are waiting for the next one.
Thank you for joining us in our conversation on Dialogues at Fulcrum. If you want to access more of our analysis on Southeast Asia, please check out fulcrum.sg. Dialogues at Fulcrum is brought to you by the ISIS Yusof Ishak Institute. We look forward to sharing more insightful conversations with you in subsequent episodes. See you then!